Hello out there somewhere in the future. My name is Rod Freeman. Rod Freeman, that's who I am. And this is my channel. I want to welcome you to my YouTube channel here. And I'm going to take you down my memory lane. People have always told me I should write a book about some of the strange things that have happened to me. And I've thought about that, and fully intended to write a book. But I've got this new age here and all this new technology, so why don't I just record it on tape, and I can throw in some stuff like some songs. I'm a musician, you might notice guitars and stuff. And I play guitar, and I'm a songwriter. I like to write songs and stuff, so I could throw some of that on and just sort of make a general my life, And I could tell you some stories. I've run through some pretty amazing adventures in, oh gosh, I guess I could kind of give you a little background of what's to come in the future videos here, because this is the introduction. So I'm going to talk about my generation, talking about my generation. And we are called, although it's hard to include myself in it sometimes because I feel so sort of alien to this generation, but I'm really not. Anyway, is the boomer generation, because we are the population boom that happened after World War II, when the soldiers came home and got their little families going, and created suburbia in the 50s and 60s. And a lot of people say, it was one of the golden ages and stuff. Although I don't know about being a golden age, but it was a definitely unique time in the history of humanoids on this earth. We were the first generation of the jet age and the space age. We were the first generation of the Cold War, which, because, the World War II ended with the nuclear bomb, sort of put total war out of the question for a while. So the powers that be divided the world up into the communist world and the capitalist world, I guess, or the free world, which is the one that I grew up in, and created what we call limited wars, which like Korea, Vietnam, and there are countless others in Angola, all over the world, where the communists, Russians, mostly, well, of course, China went communist in 49, and then Cuba in 59. But anyway, the communists would be on one side, and the capitalists or the free world would be on the other side. And that's the environment I grew up in. Although it was a golden age of a lot of stuff, because of television and because this wonderful booming economy of the 50s, and the rising middle class, that was happening here in the United States at any rate. And that's, of course, was my experience. It wasn't like that in the rest of the world, let me clue you. So I'm going to give you the facts as I encountered them in this highly privileged America, who we won the war, we won the war, and Hitler was gone, and the Japanese had been defeated, and now, it was just this wonderful time. We had television, and we were really, really sort of brainwashed by the television. In fact, it was like CBS, NBC, and ABC. CBS was William Samuel Paley ran the show there. NBC, David Sarnoff ran the show there. And Leonard Goldenson of ABC, these three guys just dictated the culture, what was going on. It was the birth of rock and roll. We were like the first rock and roll people, Now, I don't want to glorify the boomers, because even though, like Jimi Hendrix was a boomer, he was a really cool person as far as I'm concerned. So was George Bush, and Trump's a freaking boomer, So I don't want to glorify it, but the environment that we grew up in was pretty spectacular at any rate. So I experienced that, of course, growing up in a small town through the 50s and 60s, and I had my Davy Crockett hat, here I still have it. Well, it's not the original, but visual aid. And I saw Elvis, on the Ed Sullivan Show and the Beatles on the Ed Sullivan Show. I suffered the tragedy of the Kennedy assassination, and then watched Rubenstein or Jack Ruby live on TV murder Oswald, so he never got to talk about what he knew. And then, I went through the Martin Luther King's assassination and Bobby Kennedy's assassination, right, which have all been just totally, the official history has been disproven, without a shadow of a doubt. Yet the mainstream academia, mainstream media, still maintain the old myth. Anyway, especially about the Kennedy assassination. But, anyway, going through all that and then coming of age at the end of the 60s, graduating from high school, going to the University of Washington, being an art major, flunking out because I just liked art and I didn't like anything else, and having to face going to Vietnam, becoming sort of a draft dodger and traveling for 2.5 years out on the road out to India and back, working around the Mediterranean on ships. Okay, yeah, you see, I've had a lot of wild things happen. Coming back to the States, in '72 when Nixon's going down the tube and they're getting out of Vietnam and things are really getting liberal back in the old USA, and living on a hippie commune, and then that morphing into moving back to the little home port town and getting a press, an old printing press, from the 1800s, and sort of becoming part of a little literary renaissance that happened as printer and the publisher of Grizzly Bear, press. Anyway, and then getting out of that, getting a house, wife, and 2 kids, and being in a heavy metal band. Well, they called us heavy metal. We didn't really start out to be that way, but we turned into a metal band, which eventually we did get an album out and had a big offer, but I turned it down because I had the 2 kids and they weren't going to pay us anything anyway. So, and I got disillusioned with the music business after so many ripoffs and all this stuff was going on, and I didn't want to do it. So I got out of there, went back to college, became a history. I was really into history, got into history, became a history and art teacher in high school for secondary. And I did that for like 18 years. They always said, well, if you want to change things, best thing to do is get on the inside and change it from within. Well, I tried that one in the public school system for 18 years, but it did give me a little pension and some interesting and very enlightening experiences, and really taught me a lot about history because, as one professor once said, you don't know any history till you taught it, and he was right to a degree. It's when you have to lay it on the line and say, okay, this is what we think is going on, you have to really delve into the different versions that you find of history, which there are many. And that's another thing that I might include here, some tips about some of the big lies of history. There are many big, big lies in history, in this fake news, fake world that has been created for us. So these are some of the things, and now I've got a little guitar shop here, and I'm writing songs and stuff. So that's, I guess, pretty much it for me. We'll see how this goes, and welcome to Freeple of Mearth, free people of the earthly, mirthly paradise that we have here. It's just so precious. So anyway, signing off. More to come.